there's more than one reason to create an archive or a backup, but certainly kind of just making sure that things aren't going to blow up on us is a good thing to do. But can you talk about, the validity of running an archive and backup, as well as where to do that?
Yeah. So we always recommend before you run a year-end process in the system that you do create an archive or a backup company. And really the reason is twofold. Because we are doing data purge and data cleanup, if we were to purge data that you didn't mean to purge, then we've captured it in a backup company. Now, most of you are backing up your systems by other means. I expect you have some kind of nightly backup that your IT vendor, is responsible for, which is nice. But this gives us a way to create a company backup in the Sage interface. You'll have access to it immediately. We can get to it without having to contact your IT vendor and have them reload the database or anything like that. And so we always recommend that you run an archive or backup company before you run the year-end process. And really the whole process, I'm going to show you how to do that here, but it really doesn't take much time to do that. The other thing that we'll use backup companies for, just as an aside, is I would imagine a number of you have testing companies. So maybe we've created them or you've created them, companies to do testing. If you want to try out a transaction in the system, see how it's going to post, make a configuration change and post it, potentially without having to do that in your production database. We've created a test company for you. So really, the task that we use to create those test companies is the same task that I'm going to show you today to create a backup company. So it's a good way to create a test company if you haven't done that. But certainly you'll want to do this before you run the year-end process. The task itself is in Library Master Company Maintenance, and I'm going to go ahead and take control of the screen, Jeremy. All right, excellent. So back into the demo system, creating a backup company before we run the year-end process. So that task is done within the Library Master on the main menu within Company Maintenance. So if I go into Company Maintenance, these are all of the companies that are in my Sage instance. And the company that I'm working in today is the ABC company. You can see I've got a number of other companies here that are demo and testing companies. So to create a backup or an archive of that ABC company, the first thing we have to do is create a new company code and create that database, if you will, in the system. Company code is a 3-digit code. It can be alphanumeric, anything you want it to be. I'm going to just call my company code B21 because it's the backup of ABC for 2021 year end. So that's the company name. The company code is B21. So I've created that now. There it is, but it really doesn't have any data in it. So the first step is create the company code. Once I do, then I select that company code. And now I've got this copy button available to me. So what I do is I click on copy. It's going to give me this little warning message. The system gives you the capability of creating copies of just some of the modules. So you could do just like accounts receivable and accounts payable and skip the general ledger as an example. You really don't want to do that, but that's the reason it's giving you this message is you've got integrated modules. You might want to not do partial copy because of the integration between the modules. So it's just giving you a little warning message there. You can bypass that. And then what it's going to do is it's going to ask me for the source company. So this is very important. And if you do this, if you enter in the right way, it's fine. But the source company then is the company I'm copying from. The destination company is the company I'm copying to. So I'm copying from ABC, which is my production company. I'm copying into B21, which is my backup company. And that will kind of automatically happen for you. If it went in company maintenance, you're in the company that you want to copy to. I've actually had a couple customers that have done this. You want to be careful doing it the wrong way, because if I were in ABC when I did the copy, and then I selected B21 as that would be the source company, then I'd actually be copying my test or backup company over top of my production company, right? So just be careful on that. You want to go into the company that you want to copy to, and then select as your source company the company you're going to copy from. And then it's going to automatically check all of the modules. So it's, by default, it's saying, yeah, I want to do a copy of the data for all the modules in my system. Click on proceed. Do you want to copy all data files for the selected or to the selected company? I just answer yes. Now this will happen very quickly on my system because it's a demo system. I don't have a ton of data in the system, but really in real life, that process probably will take 5 to 10 minutes or less. And here again, it's dependent on the amount of history that you retain in your system, amount of transactional activity. But it's not a lengthy process. I've done some very large systems before that, 10 minutes max to do that. And so not a big process to run that. A couple other things that I want to point out about creating backup companies, or you can use this same tool for creating test companies too. We talked a little bit about that. The forms do not copy over. So if you have like a custom invoice form with your logo on it, which I assume most of you do, or you have a check form that's formatted to print on your pre-printed forms, whatever, custom forms will not copy as part of this copy process. There's a separate process to do that. Now, when we're talking about creating a backup for year-end purposes, that's probably not that important because it's not like you're going to use that company to process transactions. You're just using it as a historical reference. So probably not that important that the forms don't copy. But if you use that company copy to create a test company, and then you want to test some transactions, and you want to print on your forms, we would need to move the forms, and that's a separate process. It's a little more involved, so I'm not going to show you how to do that today, but if it's something that you want to learn how to do, just let us know. We'd be glad to help you out with that. The other thing I wanted to mention about company copies is if you've got company specific security set up, so you've got multiple companies in your system and you've got users that have access to certain companies and not others, you would need to grant them access, obviously, to this new company if you wanted to allow them to go into the new company. So, you've got to give access to any new company that you create, otherwise you won't be able to get into it. So, I mean, that just makes sense, but I wanted to mention it. A lot of our customers, rather than doing company specific security, they've just granted access. There's a setting in user maintenance to grant access to all companies. If you've done that, then it's not an issue. Any company you create, everybody would have the same access to that they currently have for the existing companies. So, but those two things I wanted to point out to you. So,
Dave, is there any limitation to the number of companies that are in the system, or is that unlimited? Or
yeah, it's a good question. No, there is no limit. I mean, it's literally limited. Well, we could do the limitation if we could figure out, alphanumeric 3-digit code, right? Whatever the permutation is on that, but it's virtually unlimited just based on disk space. I mean, I have customers that. I've got a customer that has, I think, 80 different companies, and some of those are test companies and backup companies. And you'll see that if you're creating backups every year before you run your end process, you may have, 10 or so backup companies already in your system. So yeah, good question.